Hey guys, how you doing? Hope everything is going well. Hope you're doing great and healthy, staying blessed. I just want to say something about what President Museveni said about Africa and the population of Africa. You know, and I definitely agree with him. Let me just start by saying that the Africa is underpopulated. By far, it's probably the most underpopulated continent in the world. Africa is almost 4 times the size of Europe. Europe has about 800 million people. So if we're to multiply that by 4, it means Africa must have 3.2 billion people. But we have 1.4 billion people. That's not even half of what the continent should have. 1.4 billion people, But here's where I have a problem. The Europeans travel from Europe into Africa, and then they try to convince the African governments to get their people on these programs that are population reducing. Okay? Population reducing programs. And they fund these things. And this government fall for that. And this is how they convince them. They've put it in a more like it's an education thing. Like the university have done studies. And they found out that the bigger the population is in a country, the poorer that continent is, or that country is likely to be. Now, that's not true. But they bring scientific evidence. Remember, it's per the 21st century. There's no such thing as scientific evidence. It all just depends on who's funding the research. And these are the things Africans don't know. Because we got too much respect for these people. We believe everything they say, especially if you're in Africa, everything they say, everything they do is right. Is correct, is the right way to do things. So they go there, they fund these programs that put women on pills and all sorts of things, and pushing these women to only be having like 2 children. Okay? And it's happening right now. And most of the governments in Africa are on these programs. Okay? But Africa is severely underpopulated. We need to populate it. And here comes China. The one advantage that China has over the USA in terms of creating a big economy is its people. Okay? So that flips all these people's research about this population thing, about what I'm saying, they hire the population, the likelihood of there being poverty. What China has done in countries like Taiwan, countries like Malaysia, where they have bigger population, flips all their research on its head. Because what the advantage China has is its population. If America has to match China's population, they have to invest heavily in technology. They have to have better technology than the Chinese. China can grow their economy quicker than America can because they have a bigger population. A bigger population also brings in competition among the people, and people tend to start doing a lot better because of that competition. Competition breeds excellency. If you look at Nigeria is at that cusp of where if all they need to do is have the right president, and Nigeria is going to become one of the wealthiest countries. No, they just need for 10 to 15 years, have a president that focuses on the Nigerian people and close off all the loopholes from international influence, and Nigeria will do it. You can see that when Nigerians travel, a lot of them do extremely well. Doctors, lawyers, engineers. You know? I think they are now even opening up in other industries. Because where they come from, there's so much competition, there's no time to rest. So they have an advantage, even just within the African community. Nigerians have an advantage because where they're coming from, the competition is so stiff. So they go into a country like South Africa, Kenya, Zambia, where people are a bit more relaxed. Nigerians tend to do well because of their competitiveness, and they have a sense of agency, and they treat time a lot better than in other countries in Africa, where they have population is underpopulated, and which allows a lot of people actually to have access to a lot of things, in a way. You know, it's not about, you know, the ability to buy a Mercedes, but it's the ability that you can go get a land and grow something for yourself. You know, there's always something you gotta give and something you gotta take. You know, when you live in a place like the US or something like that, obviously land becomes an issue. You know, it costs a lot, but in some places land costs almost close to nothing. You can even get it for free if you know how to talk. You know, but what I'm trying to say here is that we get convinced that we have to reduce our population when the country is underpopulated. And I hope, and I'm glad that the president of Uganda has been able to notice this. And I hope it doesn't fall for these people's tricks, trying to underpopulate us and then directly to make us rely on them. And look what's happening on their continent. You know, right now they're looking for people to go there and work, younger people. And you know why? Because their young people are not so much involved in trying to have kids. They don't want to have kids. You know, so okay, so you did extremely well for controlling the population over in your land, but now guess what? You're having a problem where the people who are getting older are more than the people who have been born. That's not a very good position you want to be in. So that tells us that if we look at what's happening in their continent, which Africans unfortunately don't do, you realize that they made a mistake with their belief of this population control. So we don't fall for that. We don't fall for that. There are more benefits in having a bigger population than having a smaller population. And the government need to set up programs to allow people to have more babies, and government should be able to help these families out. Let us not follow a jump into a burning house like they've done in Europe, and for us just jumping in because Europeans said so. Let us say no, and let's focus on family building, where, you know, in Africa having children is an important issue. Let's not move away from our traditions. Our traditions are far much superior. And this is the other thing we don't realize. You know, it's about family building. Family building is the foundation, is the building blocks of a community. You know, if you look at now in our parts of in the Western world, divorce rates are high. You know, in some countries like Greenland, 2 out of 3 kids are living in separate homes. What I mean by that is they're living in homes where the dad and the mom are separated. They don't live together. You know, and these are the things we want to follow because it's just Western. You go to South Korea, is 1 out of 61. And you know what? That's because they're holding on to their values. Most South Koreans are not even Christians. That's the other thing we got to talk about. Because we just keep following these things. We keep following these things just because white people said so. You know, and it's like following GPS when it's sending you into a lake. And we just follow because you trust in the GPS. That's ridiculous. You know, there is more benefits in having a bigger population. Economically, and also in terms of labor market. So let's realize that and stop following white people's way of doing things. Because guess what? We're doing it at our own peril if we allow that to happen. Thank you, guys. Have a good one. Bye.